Hi, it's Ileana. So recently I was drawn to watch the show called Psychics in Space, Dream Telepathy, and Remote Viewing. How does remote viewing work? How does consciousness work? There are holographic interfaces happening in dream time and lucid dreaming. You're seeing events that are real. You're seeing people that are real through a psychic lens interface of reality. Edwin C. May was on the Sean Ryan show several weeks ago, and what intrigued me was this. He said that everyone has the ability to activate psychic senses. Everyone has the ability to do remote viewing. To what degree you can do it is to what degree your senses are heightened to, what you want your ability to be, what you want your thought consciousness to be raised to tune into a signal frequency of tapping into something and seeing the actual events of what's happening in the signal frequency. People can do this to certain percentages, some higher, some lower. There's aptitude tests that easily can tell you how much of this ability you have open and you're tapping into. And what was interesting to me was that Edwin C. May, he was the director of the Stargate program that had been funded by the CIA and other numerous agencies at one point. And they had remote viewers in the Stargate program like Joe McMoneagle. He was the first. Then there was the remote viewers of Fort Meade and others. So Edwin's background goes back to Stargate program. He's a physicist. He's worked on various programs. He's studied the psychic phenomenon. Very interesting person. So what intrigued me the most when I was listening was that he said, you can tap into any signal you want through remote viewing. It can happen simultaneously. It can happen through, clearing your mind, doing meditation, doing whatever protocol you need to do to have your mind be quiet. And there's a neutrality energy where nothing can influence you to see things that your mind is producing, not the actual remote viewing data from a signal of a location somewhere out there. Locations could be on Earth, can be in space, could be off-world, can be in the past, present, or future. Remote viewing is unlimited in what you can see, what you could feel, what you can experience. Remote viewing comes from a signal of an event, of a situation, of people somewhere out there in space and time or beyond space and time. It's a locality of information, of people, events, time, space, whatever it is. It could be objects as well. So again, going back to what intrigued me of what Edwin said, you can be using any type of a modality in remote viewing, CRV, SRV, or you could just be intuitively psychic and be intuitively remote viewing something somewhere. You might be going to your car in the parking lot and you're suddenly remote viewing something because you have the ability to tap into a signal. And he tested Sean Ryan, the host of the Sean Ryan show. He tested Sean. Edwin had a laptop with him and a series of images of targets that were randomized on the laptop, and Sean couldn't see the laptop. So Edwin told Sean, get a piece of paper, get a pen, and What is coming into your mind right now? Draw that, write that out, write that. What is in your perception? Clear your mind, be empty of all thoughts. Write down what's in your mind right now, what's coming in, what are you seeing from the signal? There are no animals here, so you're not drawing animals. That's not there. So that's the only thing Edwin told Sean. No animals. What's coming into your mind? Sean drew pyramids. Sean drew houses. Sean drew a surface location. And he scored pretty decently in the percentage of what he got. He drew pyramids in the horizon, and he picked up exactly what was in the images or being randomized on the computer system to be tested, what his remote viewing capacity is, and his is pretty good in an untrained raw ability of remote viewing. As I was listening to all of this, I was like, oh, okay, I need to go somewhere. I need to go somewhere fast right now. The golden sun awaits. I need to go. I need to go and join David Powell in an important remote viewing. I need to go. David Powell is a remote viewer who I just did a session with. I had assigned targets for him to remote view in a tasking session. That was remote viewing the Black Operations group that was done several weeks ago. And David had told me, oh, maybe one day you can return the favor. Maybe we can do something together. And I said, maybe, we'll see. I am always curious, always interested, love remote viewing. I am trained in remote viewing officially. So certified in it. I've been doing it for almost 10 years now. I also trust my intuitive ability and my gut feelings. So when I got that psychic ping, I'll call it that, to go and join David Powell and the Golden Sun awaits. It's like, what is this? The Golden Sun awaits. What does that even mean? What is this? And the intuitive feeling I got, you need to go there. Your heritage awaits you. You'll figure this out through remote viewing, what this is, what the golden sun is, what the heritage is, and what awaits you. So those are the three things that pulled me into a remote viewing session. David Powell was doing his own remote viewing session of something that was tasked to him. There were 2 targets, and I was getting impressions of these targets. I was getting spheres, orbs, relics. I was getting that there were structures where these things were. I was getting mountains. I was getting a lot of sun over these mountains, a lot of sun energy, striking sun energy. I was seeing an image of the golden sun and a glowing eye inside the sun. I was seeing the sun people, the golden sun. Those were things that were in a target. I was tapping into a target signal. I didn't have the target numbers, target IDs, letters, numbers. My own mind intuitively got targets, got impressions of what was coming from the signal. And I asked David, could I join in on this? And he said, this looks interesting. Yeah, sure, you can remote view the targets. Again, he did not provide me with target ID numbers. My own mind provided the information that was needed. And off I went on a 2-day remote viewing project. Well, 2.5 days actually. And I was thinking to myself, there's nothing here. Honestly, it's just my mind tapping into something that I'm interested in. Nothing here. Nothing to see, nothing to experience, nothing. Because you have to be totally double blind to a target. You have to receive the target numbers from a tasker. I'm like, my own mind is inserting target numbers, target IDs. This is just going to be a whole inaccurate remote viewing of nothingness. But what came back to me, Edwin C. May had said this: if you're a good remote viewer and you can properly remote view things, you will get the remote viewing right no matter what target tasking you have or don't have, what numbers you have, or locations or longitude, latitude. If you can remote view out of a paper sack, you can remote view. If you can do it right, you do it right no matter what. Trust the ability, have an open mind. As anything is possible, there are no limits. That intriguing prospect stayed in my mind. And I was like, okay, I probably am just screwing up, not doing anything right, as whatever. But I kept going with the targets, kept doing it, kept getting a lot of interesting things. And I wrote them down exactly as they were. What came from the target signals, I wrote down. Drew, wrote down, did whiteboard sessions, did paper sessions. I do digital whiteboard. I don't have an actual physical whiteboard. I work with Blender software where you can model and render any image, any model that is you're perceiving it or seeing it or experiencing it. You can render that. So I'm using Blender. That's what our SRV teacher gave us for our remote viewing projects and testing, and it works. And I was like, is a digital whiteboard the same as a physical whiteboard? Yeah, you're still drawing, modeling things, and you're writing things down as you're rendering the images. So it's similar, it's an equivalent. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm like, no idea. This is just, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. But I trusted the process of my ability and my remote viewing skills. Whatever was coming in, I was just writing it down, drawing it out in the paper sessions. I was even doodling it on Autodesk on my smartphone because the signal, I just kept tapping into the signal and I kept doodling, kept drawing, I kept writing in the paper sessions. I did 2 paper sessions and then I did several digital whiteboard sessions on these signals from these targets. And I said, okay, this feels complete. The signal is now closed. Put down your psychic remote viewing pen. Put down your tools, close this up. And I asked David Powell, are you finished with your paper sessions? Are you finished with your whiteboards? He said, give me 1 more day. I'm still doing the whiteboards. Don't tell me anything of what you have. Don't send me anything. This has to be double blind protocols as usual. Like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll wait. Then I asked him again another day, can I send you now the work? He's like, yes. And when he sent me the paper sessions of afterwards of what he had and his whiteboard stuff, we both looked at it and we were like, oh, wow, that's intriguing. Things were interesting. And I wasn't just spinning my tail remote viewing something that I thought was nothing. Never discount or distrust your ability. You have to be confident as a remote viewer. You just do the work and you don't question it. You do it. And then when we found out the end results of the tasking, what the actual tasking was, that was interesting, and it has elements as well of what we got in our remote viewings. And David and I will be discussing what these were and the outcomes of this. I just wanted to give the background story of the preface of what happened to me in this remote viewing project. I was not originally tasked it. I sort of stumbled into it and waltzed into it and just went with it to see what the possibilities were. Can anybody remote view something out of nothing? And yes, you can, because there's always something in the target signal for you to pick up on. How accurate you will be or not accurate is depending on what your ability is. The more you practice, the more you work with it, the better you become at it. Some people are just natural remote viewers. Some people have psychic ability. They can lucid dream. They can see things in dreaming state and lucid dreaming. I've been seeing a man who is a leader type, who is a mediator, who is somebody important in the disclosure world. This person mediates between various factions. He is somebody who is prolific. He has a dual identity. He does a lot of work to mediate disclosure behind the scenes. He's an older gentleman wearing a suit, and he is sitting in some kind of a chamber, and he's holding a sphere in his hand. I know this man is real. I can clearly see his features, what he looks like, the environment he is in. I also know what he is doing. I can't really talk about that, but I feel like I have interfaced in a holographic interface system with this man, and he's told me things about the work he does, about the necessity of leadership and mediation, and having a dual identity, walking in two worlds, because it's needed for the work he does and what he mediates, the groups, the factions, to bring peace to the world, to create a positive timeline that is not fractured. He does mediation between humans and extraterrestrials, humans with humans and extraterrestrials with humans and extraterrestrials with extraterrestrials. ETs not from Earth and ETs from Earth. This man is important. He's a leader. So, not many people have seen him, but many people have communicated with him psychically or through discussions, through exchanges of documentation, through talking to him in emails, through talking to him on the internet without realizing who they are really talking to. Because this person is behind the scenes. They're not up front and center in the media. They're a person who I think is an insider, a very important insider, who is trying to work with special individuals who want to make a positive change for the better. And you may not even know it, that you've talked to this man or you've interacted with him in some way. You haven't really maybe seen him, but he knows you and you know him. Just because you say, I don't know who that is, by seeing the picture of him, you've probably worked with him. That's the sense I get, that this person is very prolific. Through holographic interfaces, through dreamscape, dreamtime, lucid dreaming, you could be interacting with important people and receiving messages and being guided towards something that needs to be done. That's another aspect of what I realized when Edwin was talking about dream telepathy, lucid dreaming. Psychic ability extends beyond remote viewing. It extends in other psychic phenomenon. The psychic phenomenon extends into a lot of things. Never discount what you're experiencing. Never discount the information you're receiving through whatever psychic modality you're using. Akashic records reading, psychic readings, remote viewing, telepathy. Those are all psychic tools. The Matryoshka, psychic tool. Whatever you're using, it's an ability, or just tapping into intuition to connect to the universe, to get downloads of information. Those are all tools of psychic ability that you're tapping into and working with and strengthening your psychic muscles to bring in information. to draw it, to write it, to sketch it, to do a whiteboard, physical whiteboard, digital whiteboard. Write it down, sketch it out, draw it out, figure it out, create reports on it, work it, and trust yourself to do the work. Trust it, work with it, and do it. Those would be the things I would say are good things to practice. And write down all the information. Whether you think it's an AOL analytical overlay of information, or you think it's real fact of what you're remote viewing, write it down. Write it down in a list. Never discount anything that you're receiving as information. Catalog it, write it down, draw it out, sketch it out, whiteboard it, whatever you need to do, you do. Do not limit yourself to the information coming in through remote viewing or some other psychic means. Just keep it with you. Might be relevant, might be irrelevant, doesn't matter. Just write it down. Whatever is coming in, write it down, draw it out. Like I said, you never know what information is valuable or not valuable. To me, all info is valuable. I am a keeper of information and a collector of information. To me, all bits and data sets of info, images, it's all important to me. I collect it all and then I figure out how it fits into the puzzle pieces and slots of revealing what the information means and what it is in its whole entirety. I'll figure that out later, but I'll collect it all and write it out, puzzle it out of what it actually means in a report down the road, down the line. But I collect it, and this really has underscored to me these experiences that I've recently had. Never underestimate the value of your ability and what you can do. We are not limited in our soul energy, in our physicality. We have abilities, we have gifts, and we can use them for the greater good. But I was even, questioning myself. What am I doing here? Just going off on the golden sun awaits you trajectory. What is this pulling me into? Just listening by Edwin C. May. Well, that was an energy field. That's a intuitive feeling of knowing, psychic knowing. To follow that or not to follow it, to heed the call or not to heed the call. I did heed the call, and I'm glad I did. It took me on an amazing remote viewing experience with actual targets, with actual tasking, and just learning something about my own heritage and who I am as a soul being and what I've done in the universe. It was amazing. I learned a lot, and I discovered a lot that helps me to put more puzzle pieces together in what the universe is doing, what's happening in this planet, in other planets, and in the universe. Amazing experience. I'm glad I listened to myself, followed the target signaling, did the hard work, and something good came out of it. This was not a dud. This was not anything that's nonsense. It actually turned out pretty cool. Amazing. I am quite astounded actually by what came out of these experiences. And listening to Edwin was good. It was good. It prompted me to not doubt my ability. This is not a competition. This is not a test. I'm not being compared to anybody else. David Powell is a great remote viewer. I'm a good remote viewer. Don't judge yourself. Don't doubt yourself. Don't put yourself into this field of competition with anybody else. You are who you are. You have a gift. You use it. You work with it. And your true ability will show itself of what you're capable of doing and what you can actually do with remote viewing or other psychic modalities of what you're trying, you're learning, or working with constantly. Never doubt yourself and just go out there and do what needs to be done to the best of your ability. No competition, no measuring yourself against anybody else, no doubting yourself, no talking yourself down that what this is, what you're doing is nothing. Something comes out of nothing all the time. It just appears. A gift is given to you, and you go after the gift and you work the gift, and you find what you need. The universe always provides. Never doubt, never judge. Keep an open mind, be neutral, and just work with the data and see what comes out of it. That's the fun part. That's the beauty of just doing the work you love and expressing yourself and your creativity and abilities. That's what I learned from these experiences, and it was beautiful. I have a very logical mind, so for me, I'm usually kind of skeptical, and when doing remote viewing, it's usually always double blind. I know nothing about the target. I am given target ID numbers, or just one, depending if there's one target or two targets, or if there's phases of the targets, phase 1, phase 2, aspect 1, aspect 2, aspect A, aspect B. A target can have several portions of phases in it, and you move along in it, or it could just have something that the tasker go look at this at the point of the event when it is happening and describe what this is. Describe in detail what happened at the event at this time, and this is what you need to find out. That's what's tasked in the tasking data sheet usually. So again, I'm used to doing this by the book. I know nothing about the target. It's double blind. I'm given the target ID numbers, letters, whatever the set is. It could be shorter, it could be longer, whatever the tasker programs the tasking with to do the remote viewing. That's what I'm given, and I go with it. That's the standard of remote viewing. So what happened with, I'll just call it the Edwin C. May experience of just hearing the words, "The golden sun awaits you." Hearing that was like, okay, it's intriguing. There's gold energy here. There's life here. There's information here. There's events here. Those are all the idioms, target prerequisites. You're getting information. You're tapping a signal. That's the beginning and stage of remote viewing. Then you're getting a bit more information. What are those spheres? What are those orbs? What are those structures? What's the mountain? What's the location? What's the sun beaming down on this land and lands? And what are those relics? What is that image of the golden sun and the glowing eye inside of it? What are the relics? What are the ruins? What is this all connected to? Those are the deeper aspects of the signal. Those are the events, places, items within the target or targets that need to be investigated, going beyond the idioms, beyond the mountains, beyond the sun, beyond a symbol in the sky of something. So those were all things that were moving me along through the target. When Edward C. May said, however you choose to remote view, whatever your process is, you might be mumbling in your own little corner praying and remote viewing at the same time, as long as you get the results of what these targets are, and you're seeing the target numbers in your head, and you're doing it, and you're writing it, and you're sketching it, you're getting the data points of exactly what is in the targets. You could be praying in remote viewing. You could be on the toilet doing your business in remote viewing. You can be out in the parking lot. You could be driving in remote viewing on a subconscious level, doing it subconsciously. But you need to be able to write it down, draw it out, and piece it out, literally. So whether you're praying, whether you're just mumbling and talking to yourself, and that's your remote viewing process, as long as you're remote viewing and accessing the signal of the target and doing it correctly, and you have the data, whatever your process is that's what it is. He doesn't care about your prep work of how you prep for remote viewing, or if you got it all on the toilet while you were sitting on the toilet and you were sketching, drawing, doing other business. He doesn't care about that. All he cares about is that the data is correct, the data sets in the remote viewing. So you might be doing yoga in remote viewing and writing it down, multitasking, drawing. You might be in a pretzel, but your fingers are doing the walking and the talking. Your hands are moving and writing and drawing while your legs are in a pretzel position in yoga, but you're still remote viewing. Whichever way you do it, whichever way it works for you, you could be moving with your body, you could be, modeling with clay, you could be moving, you can be running, you can be writing, as long as you get the data, with the numbers. Whatever those numbers are. And I didn't have the same numbers as what was tasked to David Powell yet. With these numbers, this worked, and I got what was there in the targets. So the process was still organic, it was still proper, it was still done the same way it always is done, just through a little bit of a different pathway, I would say. And it worked out in the end. So you're never limited in your capacity to reach out to something and tap into a signal. Tap, tap, tap. What is the signal telling you? Write it down, draw it out, piece it out. As Edwin said, whatever your technique is, as long as it gets you results in your remote view and you do it right, you've done it. And you hand off the project and you find out the tasking results, and you might be surprised by the results themselves. So this was fun, this was interesting, and I was just enjoying this weird experience. I mean, it took me down roads I never thought I would go, and it also taught me to never doubt myself. Again, I'm not in competition with anyone, I'm not competing against anyone. I'm actually joining somebody on a great remote viewing experience, working with somebody else, and just learning a lot of great things about my own capabilities, about how good David Powell is as a remote viewer. He is good with interpreting data. He was very generous, allowing me to join him on this particular project and just doing it double blind. Whichever way I arrived at it, it was still done per protocol. It's done correctly, and people will see the results of that very soon. Thank you so much.